Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this session, and sorry for the technical issues. Now we will welcome Nathan, who is the founder and director of the Guardian Project, an award-winning open source mobile security collaborative. In this talk, using Clean Insights for privacy-preserving analytics based on Matomo, you will learn how to use the Clean Insights SDK from the Guardian project to maximum privacy for your users. Let's hear Nathan's talk for more.
Great. Thank you, Silva. Thank you, Lucas, and everyone who's organized MatomoCamp. We're really excited to be here with you and to start, more collaboration and just to learn from all of you how you are using Matomo to achieve better privacy and control of measurement and analytics. This is kind of near and dear to our heart at Guardian Project, which is an effort that I started almost 12 years ago when smartphones were becoming very interesting and possible. But I also quickly realized that, while these devices that we carry around in our pockets are quite powerful, they were also clearly, tracking devices, as well as the potential of apps, which I've been working in mobile since for 20 years plus, back to the Palm Pilot and Apple Newton. That the fact of all of this binary code running on these little devices and these little supercomputers in our pockets was going to cause a lot of trouble. Um, so at Guardian Project, our focus has been initially, from the beginning, was saying how can we bring great privacy technologies that exist in open source and in desktop computing to mobile devices. That we didn't even know if that was possible. So something like Tor or PGP or OTR encryption for chat. Could you run that on a phone? And people didn't believe that you could, and I thought that we could. So one of the things we're best known for is bringing Tor to Android and more recently iOS with Orbot, the version of Tor that runs on your phone that can provide a VPN through the Tor anonymity network. So there's a case where we're very clearly connected to confidentiality and privacy concerns and work with one of the leading projects in the world on that effort. Another piece of the puzzle that we quickly realized in the mobile space was needed was app distribution beyond what the gatekeepers of, say, Google or Apple or others provide, and that much like Debian, really is the Debian system is really built upon the process of a community building and curating packages and distributing those and ensuring that you have good quality free and open source software. We needed that for Android. And the F-Droid project had already existed, to be clear. We did not found it, but it was something that we really appreciated and wanted to support and have become a big part of through my one of my main collaborators, Hans Christoph Steiner. So we're really proud of the work we've done and supporting that effort for a privacy, an app store that actually tells you, hey, this app is tracking you. You may not want to install it, as an example. And that also itself doesn't track you. Another piece of work we've done in the middle there, the icon is called Proof Mode. And this is work we've done with Witness, which is a human rights organization focused on gathering eyewitness reports through video and photos and media captured on phones. And they had the vision that now there's cameras everywhere in every pocket. And what can we do about that? And of course, many people there might think, oh, we need more tracking and analytics and surveillance of every photo and every picture because we need to use this as evidence for justice. But that's tricky. Yes, maybe we want some of the things we capture on our phones to be used to help people, but we don't want ourselves to be part of the sort of panopticon surveillance state of surveillance infrastructure at all times. Building on that, we built an app called Haven with the well-known privacy activist Edward Snowden, who again had this kind of interesting idea of like, could you use your phone as a personal security device to monitor physical spaces, like if you're a reporter, a journalist, an activist, to monitor a place like a home or an office when you're not there? Could it be a kind of a watchdog, or I often think like a small robot like R2D2 that is on your side and helps monitor and protect you, as opposed to a Skynet type one. Anyway, Snowden had this idea, and we worked through it and built something called Haven, which is quite interesting. And lastly, we've been in recent years working with trade unions and organized labor in many countries around a project called Week Clock, where workers are saying, I want my data about my workday. I don't want the corporation or the on-demand platform to be the only one who's tracking me. Like, there's value in me knowing about my own day, and then I should have the power to share that data with others to collectively organize and use the power of that data. So these are all the kind of dances and investigations and things we've been doing around who should measure, who should have analytics, who should have this data, and why and where, and how, when you get this very either precious asset of gold or toxic asset of oil, or how do you take care of it appropriately? And yeah, we're very proud of that work, and we have a lot of great relationships in this space around privacy, security, open source software. And this is some of the team, and Benjamin Earhart in the top middle there is based in Austria, is been real lead on the Clean Insights project, as well as a lot of our work with Tor. So I want to give him a shout out. We also have Carrie Winfrey, who's thinks about consent and the user experience around consent, and how we engage users with more than just a pop-up box. So we'll be talking about that today. I mentioned Hans Steiner, who works a lot with F-Droid and Debian and reproducible builds. Dr. Gina Helfrich has been a supporter, funder, mentor, organizer, and really thinks about equity and, again, sustainability of open source and how measurement is part of that. And then Ian Learmonth, who has worked at Tor on measurement, works in Debian, and is just great on infrastructure, DevOps, and a lot of other really important pieces to this solution. So a little while ago, I got inspired and wrote a manifesto around Clean Insights that was inspired by this brand of soap we have called Dr. Bronner's soap, which is kind of, quite old, maybe over nearly 80 years or something. And on the soap bottle, there's all of these slightly creative inspired words around what the soap is about. And I thought, well, if he can write such great lyrical prose about soap, maybe I could write something around our work and put it on an interesting product that people can read every morning. And I did, and we actually make coffee that is part of our sort of instigation, our hope to be a catalyst. And you can read this manifesto and more at the on the link there, cleaninsights.org/beans, which gives you a sense of, this is a little bit crazy, but it's also, we really do want to change beyond just our software. We want to change some ideas and thinking about measurement and analytics and privacy and how it's done. And we need a manifesto to do this, and also we need lots of coffee. So if you want to join us, you'll see, and you go to that link, that you can actually get free coffee. We have a distribution network, nearly global, of our insightful beans. And we hope that every morning when you're making coffee, you'll read our manifesto and think a little bit more about this. And it's important. This is really important and I'll go through this more in my talk about why and how it impacts our whole lives. So, but free coffee if you sign up for a meeting as a follow-up to this talk. So that's the enticement. So this work for me and us as a team began at a project I was in at Harvard University. I'm based in Boston, so it's nearby, and I'm a fellow, affiliate fellow now at the Berkman Klein Center for Internet and Society there. And we had a sort of a 12-week workshop called Assembly, where we were meant to take some ideas and put them into code. And my colleagues on my team there, my cohort, were from Apple, Google, Square, and the UN, and then myself. And we brainstormed a lot of use cases. And fortunately, my need emerged, which was I have all of these apps and technologies and solutions and communities that I'm trying to help, but I'm afraid to measure them because I feel like there isn't a solution out there yet that can with uphold the privacy kind of compact we've made with them. And that I want to know more about what's working and what's not working, but I don't want to do anything that would harm them. And so this team took it seriously, and it was really a brilliant group. And kind of we kickstarted, so to speak, the first implementation of Clean Insights. And we also started by looking at what was happening in the market. And we saw that often, not just in apps and websites, but you have things like the emergence of smart cars, of machine learning based platforms where there's so much measurement and analytics going in order to make the self-driving better, to make the car better, to make the product better, whatever. But then so often that same data was being used against customers, journalists, people inquiring about the product, right? And so this was a case where a journalist had written an article critical of Tesla, and then Elon Musk went and pulled out all of the data from that journalist drive and said, well, this is what you did here, and this is your turn here, and you went too fast here, and this is how you drove wrong, right? And it was kind of, I know there's lots of details in there, but it's pretty shocking to me that a corporation could do that, take that data and use it back against their critic so easily in real time. And that's something that was meant to be beneficial to the customer was being used to harm them, or to counter their claims. And this has happened in a number of cases around driving and accidents and other court cases with some of the tech in Tesla. There are also other cases where someone was a criminal, and in this case, there was a homeowner said his house burnt down, but in fact turned out to be arson. And the way they discovered it was arson was they found out he had a pacemaker, and they extracted data from his pacemaker that maybe he didn't even know was there, that to show that his story wasn't right about was he when he was sleeping. And this, I mean, this is like the most dystopic, like the thing keeping you alive in your body, your cybernetic implant. The police are jacking into it and sucking out data in order to convict you. Now, he's a criminal, sure, but obviously there's a slippery slope. And the more and more that we have technology in our bodies, how and when can it be used against you? And I know as a small aspect of this, many in the US at least, there's programs called wellness programs where you get to a free Fitbit, and then it taps into your company's systems. And if you wear it, you get some coupon or credit or bonus or something because you're proving you're healthy, right? Or yeah, and so what next? After that in the workplace, and we already know that Amazon and others are using kind of, again, things that are supposed to benefit you, to improve your life, to improve the service, are being used against you often. Now there are some highlights, and we had the chance, through the program at Harvard, to work with Professor Cynthia Dwork, and there's people thinking about really, new kinds of maths in the order of, what end-to-end encryption and kind of the work there has produced, and there's similar work around statistical privacy and computing data that we're inspired by and that we're hoping to work towards, and we have dabbled in. But this is sort of like, there is something on the horizon here. There's many things on the horizon, and we were kind of able to tap into some of that thinking. We also saw that what we were doing isn't just a activist, cyberpunk cypherpunk, dream. This is something that Apple was actually already implementing as an example, because they wanted to know what emojis were popular, but they didn't want to log every single thing you were typing, because they understood that that was a toxic asset and not something they wanted to hold on to. But they needed to know, just how popular the poop emoji was. So they could decide where to put it in the order of emojis. But that actually had a benefit without harm. So it could work. So, we knew like the problem was monumental. We knew that like there's some possibilities. And I should also say, back then with, Piwik and then Matomo, like we were always inspired by this work and this community building open source self-hosted analytics that, you know, kind of fit in the world of the web that we believe in, and in terms of decentralized technologies and self-hosting. And we always were like, look, these guys are doing it. This team is producing products that people are starting to adopt, and could we build something like that or build on it, right? And so the seeds were already there for connecting the work we're doing with the Matomo community. Now, most recently, in the last year, we've also seen that there's continued to be kind of big gaffes and missteps and problems with even beloved software and open source community. I love Audacity. I'm a huge fan. I've used it for a long time. And we saw a real misstep by this new parent company that acquired the code or the team. I don't know all the details, but the point is there's still a lot of lack of awareness around like, why would it be bad to just drop in, perma cookies and UUIDs and commercial toolkits into this product? Like that's what we do. That's what everybody does, right? There's still a basic, huge actually chasm to cross around what is okay, what is okay to do, why shouldn't we? And even in the human rights community, even in the Harvard community, people just drop in Google Analytics. And I know that's a thing that you all are working on and probably have a lot more experience in, how to get people to understand the other possibilities and what can be done there. And that's part of our work, especially in the open source community. We also see this continued kind of attack on users around conflating usability improvements with advertising, tracking for advertising. And I think that is a big thing that gets still combined quite a bit, where you said, oh, we need your help to do X, Y, and Z and make this better. But then that data is, combined for other purposes. And again, if we are building software for human rights, humanitarian purposes, and then this kind of gets introduced in the process where we say, oh, you have to use this other tool and then it's going to track you. It overwhelming kind of number of data points start being collected on people we're trying to help. And, I kudos to Apple for what they've been, some of the moves they've made have been really interesting with injecting into the user experience around consent, a new model, and I think people are starting to respond, and it's interesting to see how it's impacted companies like Facebook. And then, with the pandemic, we saw a lot of and in recent years, emergence of smart kind of civic and health technology, be it measuring people in cities, measuring people around each other, having more data about COVID and testing, and having more public infrastructure, like in New York City, these Wi-Fi hotspots that are meant to provide people without access to the internet, free Wi-Fi and Chromebooks and all of this stuff. And we've been through a lot, and I hope all of you, are doing well, and your families are well, and that we're all on a road to a better, brighter day. But there's been a lot of kind of changes in, again, what is happening in our society around infrastructure. And on the one hand, there's horrific security, which is a different topic for most of these things. But on the other hand, you know, again, what are you collecting and why, and what data is collected, how long do you retain it, and all of this, that I think is very different country to country as well. So I want to recognize that based on different regulations. But there's still that vision, like if we just knew everything, everything would be okay. So back to our core story. We have a lot of these users that we want to help authentically to make our software that doesn't track them and doesn't harm them better, but we don't, and we haven't been, and we needed to figure out a way to do that. And so there's a lot of others that are in the same quandary, and that we work with, and that we've been trying to provide a solution for in our space. And I'm here today to kind of share that work and see maybe there's broader adoption possibility. So, as I said, the Tor project has actually done a lot of thinking about this, and they were a big inspiration with their metrics portal, which is completely public. And it's so interesting that an anonymity system actually has the best measurement and analytics system as part of it. But they figured out how to do it. They found that compromise and that way to do it without harming their users. And they've communicated, and it's a kind of a key, very transparent piece of their system to say, is Tor working? How many people are using it? What's the throughput? Where is our infrastructure located? So all of these things um, are there, and they continue to do this and really have been excellent. There's others like the Open Observatory of Network Interference, and other groups doing measurement that we take inspiration from. We also did a outreach and a research project with that's published on cleaninsights.org and through partner sites with groups like KeyPass, Cubes, TunnelBear, Least Authority, Siphon, Umbrella, a bunch of different projects to say, hey, how do you feel? What are you doing with measurement? And how are you? Uh, if we could offer more, what would you take it? And this is the big question, really, and how they interact with their users and what they expect. And so we were excited to collaborate, and there's a lot to learn from that report. And part of it was also that fed into a symposium we held last year, and we hope to hold another one next year that really brought this together into a lot of the questions around consent and kind of what should they know and what should you know and how should you measure it. So out of all of this, finally getting to the point here, we decided to build some software. And I mentioned my collaborators earlier, and we said, look, can we actually build something that and we had tinkered since 2017 on different little pieces and trying things, but I think we started to get a much clearer idea and a specification of what we would use in a toolkit for measurement and what we would need as part of that. And a big part of it was just this idea, again, I mentioned the idea of toxic assets and liability, and how do we separate that risk from the actual thing we want to know. And so our model is not to log everything and then figure it out later, but it's to ask specific questions and measure specific things, and do edge client side processing in browsers, in mobile apps, and then submit the data in a way that is as clean as possible. So, some of the basic kind of guiding principles is around that we have are displayed here, and we work through a variety of mechanisms to achieve these things about aggregating and averaging and pointed focused data collection, measurement windows of time, so you don't get specific timestamps, getting consent to opt in, and how we explain what's going to be measured. This is all part of what Clean Insights is designed to do. And a bit of a different view of this. I should mention at this point, we decided very early, we don't want to build our own backend system. We want to focus on our client side SDKs. And so we chose Matomo as the sort of infrastructure we wanted to integrate with, the analytics and visualization and kind of long-term or short-term storage of data. And it's been great. And it's also interesting because many organizations want to use Matomo for their basic web analytics, for their web page, for their marketing still, and that's fine. What we're talking about are applications and infrastructure and specific interactions. And so it actually works well together to say, oh yeah, set up Matomo, we'll run it for you, drop in the the JavaScript in your website, let's tune it for privacy. There's a lot of great settings in Matomo we love for that. And then for your app, for your other things, we'll use Clean Insights on top of that. And they get this really great combined view of kind of what they're used to with something new. And we've been really, happy about that. And so um, a lot of that backend, I'll talk about the privacy proxy in a moment, but we have this client-side SDKs that are configured and have measurements of events and views that have a bit of processing in the storage queue and then are sent at a certain period back to this privacy proxy we built, and then that goes into Matomo. So as of today on GitLab and on cleaninsights.org, we have actual SDKs that have shipped and are very exciting to I'm proud that they're there, and we're integrating in applications kind of as we speak for lots of languages. And I think we actually also have the Rust SDK is our newest one, and I know Rust is emerging in many environments as like the most secure way you can build something that is, a binary kind of application. But we support server applications through Python. We support Apple, Android, JavaScript. So there's lots of ways to start dabbling in it and using our code in different environments. And then I'll talk a bit more about Matomo proxy. So this is all on our website. Everything's through GitLab, published in the places you'd expect for dependencies and so on. So very easy to integrate. A piece early on that we realized we needed to achieve some of our goals was a privacy proxy in front of Matomo. And this is what our SDK speaks to in order to uh, interact with the data in the way we collect it and then put that into Matomo in the appropriate way. So this isn't a great slide, but this is really the information from the GitLab and the README, and Benjamin Earhart, who's here, designed most of this. But we had certain requirements, and the idea was we would, we kind of aggregate records together so they're not always being logged in real time, as an example. We also wanted to filter some of the headers from mobile devices and things, and so that we could really control some of those things before they ever went into Matomo. And recognizing that in some cases, not everyone would control the Matomo maybe as precisely as they wanted. And yeah, and it's a pretty simple layer, but it was great that we had the Matomo API to work with and that we could build this layer that we needed. So again, it's about flexibility, control, and it was awesome that this was possible. And it's been working out very well. So when you work with Clean Insights, the steps are that first you set up a campaign, and this is through JSON or configuration file that defines kind of the measurement period, some local persistence, how often to measure, when to start and when to end. And this can be set very broad or can be set very narrow. And so one of the ideas is you might say to users, I'm just going to measure you for 2 weeks. We're doing a study for 2 weeks. Do you want to join? It's going to be focused on improving this feature, and you can join and participate in this study. That's a big key concept here, which is not sort of endless measurement. And we think people are more likely to opt in and say, sure, I'm excited about that if they have that ability. So then we get consent, and we have some various UX I'm going to get to quickly because I'm running out of time. And then you choose to measure specific events with custom data or specific views. Some of this relates to what you might be used to in the Matomo SDKs around events and views, because we knew the data was ending up there in the end. So we wanted to be able to map it into some of what you would see in Matomo on the back end, right? So it's there is that heritage there in thinking about the data, but how we process it and it gets there over time. So you might do a bunch of measurements of someone clicking on a button or interacting with something, and then once a week that data is aggregated as a count and sent to the server, as opposed to going constantly to the back end. So cleaninsights.org has a lot more information on this. And we're also doing a workshop tomorrow morning that, if you really want to implement, we're going to be ready to talk to you about your specific needs. So, and I'm always available. A big part of this in our apps was also this idea of consent. And we've spent a lot in consent user experience design, a lot of energy around the messaging, contribute for this number of time, we'll be doing these things to gather these pieces of data, and here's how you'll benefit, and we'll reach back to you. And so really make it a participatory co-design process to improve your software or your site in a way that's transparent and collaborative. This is key for us, and we think it's an important model moving forward. You could say we're going to measure you for a year or for a month or longer time periods, but you do want to kind of have an experience where they, it's like people in the US, there's a thing called Nielsen ratings, where you used to be super excited in the old days of television to be a Nielsen family because they wanted to know what you cared about and which television shows were good. And you had a box in your house, and it felt like, oh, everyone wanted to be that family. And I think we're trying to recapture some of that positivity around providing feedback to services. Ultimately, there's an idea of what you're gathering and why, and that we want to tap into. So I'm going to keep going. So we have a bunch of designs, Figma files, blog posts through our partner. Okay, thanks. Carrie on our team that's her design studio and really has done outstanding work here. And we're actually building all of this into multiple applications, like as I mentioned earlier. F-Droid themselves have already implemented a piece of this, though we haven't fully done the consent user experience. But if you go to the F-Droid blog, there's a post on Clean Insights, and the ideas was we wanted to just understand, the insight was, how often do people fail to install an app they choose? And then what are the most popular apps this week across all repositories? And that felt like something that they were comfortable using Clean Insights to measure as people opted in, and that would be that people would be excited maybe to share that, right? And so those are the idea of insights that we feel are clean, that we're able to generate there. So, in the future, there's a lot more we want to do with more advanced kind of solutions and more filters and how to batch data. We're also looking at secure multi-party computation and some of the interesting work there, with kind of how to expand what we're doing into larger data sets, and have solutions for a broader market. Again, free coffee. So good, so delicious. So if you come to our workshop tomorrow, I think you get free coffee sent to you, and then so good. And but this is also, if you go there, you'll see, it's a chance for us to connect, and we really want to do. We have so much to learn from you and from people that have already been doing measurement or already implementing things like Matomo, have been through this, or who have other thoughts or other ways that they've solved the issues we've brought up. So we're really wanting to get that feedback for sure. And my slide is a little messed up, but I am N8FR8, Nate Freight, in many places on Matrix, Nathan at guardianproject.info and cleaninsights.org. Benjamin Earhart is TLA. He's often around in various rooms. And so I think that's my talk for today. And we have time for questions, I think, because we did start a little bit late. But I also want to, respect all of your time. So I love ending early. And I have more time tomorrow. So if you have deep questions and want to work on this more with us, tomorrow is a good time as well. I'm gonna have a sip of coffee. I think we're also, an area that, while I'm waiting for questions, please ask away. We do want to talk to we know a lot of people use Matomo with web analytics, but we are really interested in people that are using the Matomo mobile SDKs, and how you've integrated into native apps. It would be great to hear from you either now or tomorrow or through the chat rooms, and to kind of talk about how you can migrate to using Clean Insights, the SDK instead, perhaps, or why you wouldn't. Thanks, Bjorn. Jorge, appreciate that. Good, that's easy softball. I will say, boy, our Hans just posted something in our feed about how Android apps can track users based on their wallpapers, and it's there's so many problems on mobile devices in this area with perma cookies, essentially fingerprinting a device as a way to get a perma cookie. And I guess wallpaper is the latest. So I was, I often set custom wallpapers. So that's a problem I have. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for all the kind words. I will be attending other presentations today as well, so hope to hear all of your other work there and seeing. I know there's a lot of other relevant topics. So, but again, please come tomorrow morning if you want to talk through your own implementation, or sign up at cleaninsights.org/beans for a private consultation with coffee and stickers too. You get stickers. There we go. I think we're done then if there's no questions.
Many thanks, Nathan. I think people are a little bit shy for the moment, but we can also continue the conversation in the chat.
Sure, I'll be there and in the cafe as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Usually I have my ukulele or guitar here and I could play a song, but I can't find it at the moment, unfortunately.
That would be fun though.
I know. Next time. I don't know where it went. My children took it. Oh, I have another. Hold on.
Well, they must be practicing instead of you.
All right. This instrument is I'm Nathan, by the way, if everyone's watching. This is called a dromnyan, or a Tibetan banjo. And it has double strings. And the interesting thing is the bottom string is kind of a drone, like a bass. And it's not tuned up because this is more of an instrumental, ornamental instrument. But yeah, it's a really beautiful instrument. And this is just waiting music while we're figuring out the technical difficulties. Anyway, it's a pretty fun instrument. It's got this cool like bass drone, like kind of Tibetan Mongolian, that throat singing sound, and then you get this real low bass, and then you play the melody on the top strings. And yeah, I brought this back from Tibet many years ago. It's this beautiful skin there. Okay, we're gonna go with the PDF file.